So we'll start off with, of course, your return to the Dutch fold after a gap of 6 years. What prompted this return from your end?
Yeah, it was sort of a funny one. Obviously, like you said, it's been 6 years between drinks, I guess. And I think my little brother, Ben, who played for about 9 years, him retiring, sort of opened up a spot in the batting order. And then, I got an email out of the blue asking if I'd be interested because they wanted some experience, I guess. And fortunately, I've got 2 young kids, so my wife was very supportive of the decision, and here I am now.
All right, that's fantastic. Of course, a lot has changed since you last played for the Netherlands. Would you say the team is in a much better position right now compared to how it was sort of back then?
Yeah, definitely. I think when I first went over to Holland, probably a dozen years ago now, it was, I guess, very amateur. And then it slowly got more and more professional. And now, obviously, a lot of those guys, or basically all those guys, bar a couple who have retired or aren't playing anymore. So it's sort of the new generation of Dutch players, and there's some really exciting young talent, and then you throw in the experience of the guys playing county cricket, and it's a very exciting squad to be a part of.
Right. Of course, you're playing in the T20 World Cup. You're playing all your matches in Geelong. You've played a few matches there. Could you give us an idea of how the conditions are there and how the surface could sort of behave?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was sort of our home away from home with the Renegades. So we've played quite a bit there, and it's obviously a drop-in wicket. So it's I guess generally it's an AFL ground where the Geelong Cats play. So I guess over the years they've tinkered with the way the wicket runs, but I'm pretty sure now it runs straight down the middle. So it's sort of probably a similar type shape to the Adelaide Oval. It's quite long, straight, and short square boundaries. So and being a drop-in wicket, it's sort of it's been depending on the year, it's been underprepared sometimes, depending on the weather. But I think last year during the Big Bash, the Perth Scorchers almost had it as a home away from home, and we saw some really high scores, and sort of 200 was getting chased down and scored quite often. So hopefully, as I guess everywhere with drop-in pitches, they've got better with the technology they have these days. So hopefully we'll see plenty of runs and some high-scoring games.
Right. Going a little further back, Tom, in 2019, Aaron Finch had hinted that you could be in Australia's plans for the T20 World Cup, comparing you to someone like Josh Buttler at that point. However, despite you being in a very good form in domestic cricket, that sort of never really materialized. Could you share what went through your mind when you heard that, and how you felt when that call-up sort of never really came?
It's always nice to get those sort of I guess recommendations, I guess. And so I've played a lot with Finchy at the Renegades. He was my captain there. So to get that feedback, I guess, was quite exciting and showing that I was doing something right. Unfortunately, probably a couple of months later, I had a pretty shocking Big Bash that year. So he then told me that I'd basically played myself out of the team. So that wasn't quite as good a feedback, but no, it's nice to get, I guess, compared to who probably is in Josh Buttler, one of the greatest 2020 batters of all time, and definitely one of the most destructive in the world. So I guess you take a lot of confidence from that, and like I said, it didn't quite materialise, which is disappointing. But fortunately, I get a chance at another World Cup with the Dutch side.
Right. Looking back, are there any regrets that it didn't materialise?
What's that? Sorry.
I'm asking if on the hindsight, are there any regrets that the Australian call-up you never got one?
Yeah, definitely. I guess I was born and bred in Australia, so it was always a dream of mine. So I guess it's not a regret. You always go out trying to do your best, and as we've seen, the Australian side is extremely strong. So you got blokes like Tim David that have been dominating around the world for a couple of years, and he's only fought his way into the side now. So I'd be lying if I said I wasn't disappointed that it never happened. But I guess that's there's a lot of good players that don't get to play for their country, and fortunately, with my Dutch ancestry, it's I've been able to be privileged enough to play in. I think this is going to be my 4th World Cup, so it's been a nice sort of backup plan.
Right. Also, you spoke about Tim David briefly just now. I mean, how do you stop him? You played a few games against him. Any bowling plans that you may recall that sort of worked against him?
Not really. We've had. I can't remember him getting too many against us when I've played him in the Big Bash, which is quite fortunate because there hasn't been too many games he's missed out in the last few years. So I think what has worked is you got fast bowlers like the other night. If you can bang it in there short, and he's obviously going to take the game on. But if you can get him early, it's always very nice. But I guess we saw up at the Gabba, if you don't quite get him early, he's an extremely dangerous player.
Right. I'm going to come back to the T20 World Cup now, Tom. You touched upon your preparations a little bit early on. You played Scotland yesterday, and now you're playing West Indies, I think, tomorrow. Any areas in particular that you want to improve individually and also as a team?
We've had a quite a good preparation, to be honest. The boys landed in Australia about the 21st or 22nd of last month. So we had a good 10 days in Adelaide. Played a couple. Unfortunately, the weather wasn't great, so we were inside a bit, but played a couple of practice games against the University of Adelaide, which was good to get out on the park. Then we went up to Brisbane and played against a sort of Brisbane or Queensland and Brisbane Heat academy type side with like Maxi Bryant played, so some really good players. And we sort of had another 3 good hit outs there. We managed to sneak a game against Afghanistan in which we knocked them off, which was really nice. And then, like you said, Scotland yesterday, where we certainly didn't play our best and unfortunately didn't get over the line. But we've taken a lot of learnings from those. What's probably six or seven games so far. So I think the boys have taken a lot of confidence out of those. I think there's a bit of weather around tomorrow, so hopefully we can get on against the West Indies and just keep fine tuning it. I think we haven't played the perfect game yet. We've bowled really well in parts and not so well in others, and same with the bat. We've had some really good individual performances, but probably haven't put a full game together with the bat either. So hopefully we've got one more chance tomorrow, weather pending, and against a really good outfit. So it's a really good chance on the MCG under lights, which I know the boys are extremely excited about, to go out and really fine tune that and take a lot of confidence into our first game down in Geelong.
Yeah, the UAE had West Indies at 22 for 3 yesterday, so I think you have an opening there for sure against them.
Exactly right.
Yeah. Also, of course, since the last World Cup and now, a lot has changed in Dutch cricket. Peter Silaar retiring from the game. Ryan ten Deskate is no longer there. Of course, you mentioned your little brother Ben also quitting international cricket as well. So for many teams, that would ideally be a massive blow, Tom. But Netherlands seem to have taken that as an opportunity to churn out new talented cricketers. That must be a huge positive for the team.
Yeah, exactly right. Like you said, some of those names have been stalwarts of Netherlands cricket. So Peter Saylor, unfortunately, with his back, had to pull the pin. Tendo, I think it was always going to be his last World Cup, and then, like I said, Benny decided to call it quits as well. But I think one of, I guess you could say, the strengths now of Dutch cricket is, unlike in the past, it's actually really difficult to pick the squad. So I know that there's a lot of selection headaches to pick the 15, and I certainly know that to come to the final 11 come Sunday, it's going to be really difficult. So that sort of bench strength is really good, and like you said, it's given a few young guys an opportunity to put their hand up, and we probably had our best summer of cricket ever. We sort of played ODIs against West Indies, England, Pakistan, a couple of T20s against New Zealand. And then you throw the World Cup qualifiers in there. So we've had a lot of game time to sort of learn and grow as players. And I can guarantee you from the start of the summer to now, the boys have improved a lot. So
Right.
we're certainly not here to sort of just make up numbers. We're hoping to have a really good tournament.
Right. Of course, tell me about these new breed of cricketers, Tom. There are the Basti Lady, the Vikramjit Singh, the Tim Pringles, the Teja Nidamunru, and others who've broken into the side. They've already made such a huge impact, haven't they? What can we expect from them in this World Cup?
Yeah, well, they're all young guys, and they've sort of both had breakthrough summers, I guess.
Mm.
And I know associate teams talk about it a lot, but when you don't play against the big teams all that often, it's hard to learn and it's hard to compete. But like I said just before, we've had sort of sustained games against them, and the boys throughout the summer that they've all shown that they're good enough to perform at that level,
Mm.
and they've taken a hell of a lot of confidence out of that. So. It's not sort of the case in the past where you come up against these superstars or these guys that you look up to, and you almost think you can't beat them because you sit back and watch them on TV. Now our guys have been out there competing against them. They've taken wickets against them. They've scored runs against them, and they believe that they can perform. So I guess the job now is to do that consistently, but like Vikram Singh, Basi Delita, that they're really young guys that there's no reason why they can't take the world by storm and show what they're made of.
Right. Also, tell me how it is to be working alongside Scott Edwards and Brian Cook. They're a relatively new captain coach sort of a team. How has your experience been with them so far?
Yeah, really good. I guess obviously there's a fair bit of drama, I guess, at the start of the summer with Ryan Campbell.
Yeah.
Obviously, that made headlines around the world, and Cookie came in probably not under the greatest circumstance, I guess, but he's
Mm.
taken that all in his stride, and the boys really love him. So he's brought a whole heap of energy,
Mm.
and really backs the boys in. He really cares about the boys, and like I said, we've made massive strides underneath him, and sort of similar for Scotty Edwards. I think. Everyone sort of knew Peter Saylor was on his last legs. I think he would have ideally liked to get through the summer, but he sort of pulled out early in the year, midway through that England series.
Right.
I was a couple of games after went for 498, so things weren't going great. But Scotty's come in and taken it in his stride, so he's barely put a foot wrong. Both captaining and also with the bat, he's been outstanding. Just another one of those guys that through sustained games against these better teams has really looked at home. So
Right.
they've been, it's a nice environment here. And yeah, hopefully we can make their job easier by playing some good cricket over the next couple of weeks.
Right. Just a couple of more questions from me, Tom. Also, there was news yesterday about Gary Kirsten and Dan Christian joining the coaching staff as well. How has it been having them around, and for you to pick their brains, and for the other members of your team to sort of interact with them?
Yeah, it's really exciting. I think the news is a bit late on Dan. He's been here for the preparation, and he's unfortunately gone home to be with his family now. So, but the boys have loved having him around. Obviously, he's one of the best T20 performers in the world over the last 4 or 5 years. I think he's won he's top three in most titles anywhere, and really consistent at power hitting at the end. So he's definitely given the boys a few gold nuggets to work on, and really the boys have embraced having him around, and he'd probably be sick of getting questions from the lads. And then Gary Kirsten, he arrived over here on Sunday, I think it was. So he's relatively new around the group. I think
Yeah.
probably half the boys have worked with him a little bit before. But I know personally it's the first time I've worked with him. And from the few chats I've had, you can tell that he's obviously a student of the game and knows his stuff really well. So already with the help from Dan and now with the help from Gary, hopefully that'll go a long way to, I guess, cricketing smarts and the boys really believing that they can perform at this top level.
Right. Just the
Tom,
final one from. Sorry. Yeah, carry
I'll
on.
just jump in with one question. So you being the senior or having the experience of playing across the globe and against every each other player, like what would be your advice to the youngsters who haven't played in the big level? I mean, like they have played, but in a multi-tournament like World Cups.
Yeah, like I said, it's obviously a very high pressure environment. We've sort of, I guess, got to win 2 of our 3 games really to qualify through for that Super 12. So um, I think the main thing, and I've said it to the boys a lot, is to enjoy it. I think if we're throughout the summer, if we've been having fun and enjoying our cricket, that's when we've played our best. I guess when it gets high pressure, sometimes you can go into your shell and you don't really enjoy it, and you start doubting yourselves, and then things can go wrong. So that first and foremost, enjoy it, and then just to back their skills. I think we've had a big lead in for this World Cup, and then you throw in the summer that we've had. The boys have something they can draw upon where they've done well against world class cricketers. So I think especially in T20 cricket, if when in doubt, just be positive and back their skills, and no one can I guess judge you on that. And more often than not, if you take the positive option, you're going to be successful.
Right. Just a final one from me, Tom. You spoke about the series against Pakistan, England, and West Indies. I want to ask you about the final ODI against Pakistan, where you needed 207 to win, and you got so close to getting the win, getting over the line. Just tell me about the experience playing against such a big team, and of course, it was a good thing for you as well. You also returned to form with 3 back-to-back 50s. You've made a habit of it. You started with 350s, and now in the last 3 innings also you have 350s.
Yeah, I
So
guess
just
depends what
yes,
way you look at it. You can say that's good, but I would have liked to have got a couple of hundreds and won those games. But yeah,
right,
like you said, it was a game that I guess we really should have won. Looking back at it, and I know I guess the outside cricket world sort of would have expected Pakistan to win those games, but I think the way the team's grown, we were gutted and really disappointed that we didn't win that game. I know in the past we would have been happy that we competed, but just the growth of this team, it was almost heartbreaking to not get over the line, because we pride ourselves now that we can match it with the big boys.
right. So, any thoughts on your group? You have a good tough group. Would you say this time in the World Cup? How do you see it all panning out?
Yeah, I think both groups are pretty tough. I think it's pretty cutthroat. You sort of now that especially you got what is it, ninth and 10th ranked sides in there as well.
Yeah.
It's sort of extremely tough, and this 2020 cricket,
Hmm.
anything can happen. So I guess all things being even, you could almost say we're probably favourites to go through second in that group, but it's going to be hard work. I guess UAE, like I said, they had West Indies 3 for 20 odd the other day, and they're a very dangerous side. And then I don't know the exact scoreline, but Namibia beat us in the last World Cup, which sort of, I guess, knocked us out. And then obviously Sri Lanka have just won the Asia Cup, so they're probably a bit unlucky to find themselves in this position. So I think the way it shapes up, we've got maybe a slight advantage playing Sri Lanka last. So hopefully we can get out of the block strong, and win our first couple of games, and really put those other sides under pressure. And yeah, I know we'll be extremely disappointed if we. And I guess we've got unfinished business from last World Cup. So hopefully we can put in a couple of good performances and find ourselves in that Super 12 stage.
Right. Tom, sorry, that's all the questions I had for you. But I would say one thing. I spoke to Rulov yesterday. He made a very
Yep.
brave call, saying that he predicts Netherlands versus Australia final this time. Do you agree with him?
Oh, really? Netherlands v Australia. I'm going to Yeah, that'd be nice. That'd be very nice. I'm
Yeah.
gonna. Not sure the Aussies will be there though. I reckon. I
Right.
reckon there's a lot of pressure on them.
Yeah.
Having won last time, being the reigning champs, and in their home country. Obviously they've been tinkering a lot with their side.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think someone like an England or an India is probably the favourites at this stage.
Right.
But yeah, I certainly wouldn't mind playing the Aussies in the final though.
Right. Those are the questions I had for you, Tom. I leave it to Anirudh. He has a couple more, I believe. So Anirudh, just
Perfect.
take it away.
Hi Tom. So basically, the thing is, my questions is like, how is it gonna be playing a World Cup in Australia? So basically, it's a T20 World Cup. This is the first time which is happening in Australia. So like, I just want to know, how does a drop in pitch and a normal pitch differ? Like, what is the difference in a T20 game? In a test, it's okay, fine, but in a T20 game, is there any kind of starking difference or anything like that?
Um, Oh, yes and no. I guess here in Australia, there's quite a few drop-in wickets now. So I know the Adelaide Oval's a drop-in wicket, the MCG. Over at Optus Stadium in Perth, it is as well. And I think with all the technology these days, they're generally beautiful to bat on. I think the only thing, I guess, talking about Geelong, where our games are based, when I've played there before, they've sort of only had the one wicket in, so there's no square around it. So you're sort of hitting the ball into the outfield, which, if you've never done that before, it can make a bit of a difference. I know playing there with the Renegades, we'd generally get a run out of game because the ball just doesn't shoot off out to the outfield as it normally would. But yeah, the difference, it's minimal now. The groundsmen are really good. They know what they're doing. They put a lot of preparation into them, and it generally, a drop-in wicket's just as good as, or if not better, than a normal wicket.
So like, this World Cup, I guess, in the main stages you have Hobart is a drop in pitch. It's not a drop in pitch, right?
Now
Hobart is
Hobart's
not a drop.
a normal, yeah,
Hobart, Brisbane, and I guess Sydney. Hobart,
yeah,
Brisbane,
the
and
SCG,
Sydney are normal, and the other
yep.
three are drop in. So like, the thing is like, how does it sustain, like, as this is a bigger tournament, so how does a drop in pitch sustain? Like, is it gonna be the same, or it's gonna change, or how we have it tends to slow in a normal pitch as when we are playing a long tournament. Is the same case with the drop in pitches as well?
Yes and no. I think you look at places like the MCG, the Adelaide Oval, and over at Optus Stadium, they're quite big squares, so that there's plenty of pitches to use. And I guess if it got really bad, they could literally pick it up and replace it with a new one. So I certainly don't think that the pitches are going to deteriorate throughout. I think generally here in Australia, the pitches are really good for batting. So I'd expect that's going to be the case throughout this World Cup also.
No. So a perspective of an Indian, obviously. Like, so is it gonna swing early on, especially like for our bowlers, like somebody who's a military medium guy and depends on swing? So do you get swing on drop and pitches, or is it gonna be just extra bounce kind of thing?
Yeah, definitely. I think obviously up in Brisbane, it's going to swing a lot more than it is, say, in Melbourne. So sort of the venue, or
Yeah.
the city, over in Perth, it obviously swings a bit. Um, so yeah, I don't think that the wicket changes the swing or not. It's more the overhead conditions. So
Yeah.
yeah, Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide, it generally doesn't swing quite as much as Perth and Brisbane. So yeah, it's going to vary from ground to ground. But yeah, I guess from a batter's point of view, hopefully there's not too much swing and there's lots of runs.
I know, like, so that is what we have seen throughout is like, apart from Gabba, there's no other ground which you get a lot of swing. It's always extra bounds in Australia. Apart from only Brisbane is the only place where you get some swing. So like, is that gonna change this World Cup or anything? Like, at least for the probably first 20 matches or something like that.
I think generally you find Brisbane swings more, Perth you get a little bit more, but the other grounds you might get swing for 1 or 2 overs. But yeah, it's not gonna swing much longer than that. And then I think like I said, it's going to be nice for batting. And early wickets will be the key in that first couple of overs. Otherwise, I think we'll see plenty of runs.
Um, Coming back to the venues, I mean the dimensions of the ground. So, among the six, which do you feel that has this bigger square boundary and smaller straight grounds, or the vice versa as well?
Definitely. So the MCG and Optus Stadium over in Perth are the same dimensions. So they're got a lot of real estate square,
Okay.
but straight they're quite well, not small, but they're a lot smaller than they are square. Up in Brisbane, the Gabba, depending on the pitch that you play on, square can be quite big also. And then SCG, just a good all-round cricket ground. That's sort of decent size hit all round. Hobart the same, depending on which side of the block you play. And then Adelaide Oval, obviously, a bit like Geelong, is longer straight and shorter square. So
Yeah.
I think depending on the venues, it'll determine what sort of shots you're more likely to see.
Yeah, exactly. So the thing is, like, for somebody like an unconventional player like Glenn Maxwell, so square boundaries, which is very much important. If it's a square short boundary, so it would be very easy for him. But somebody like Surya Kumar Yadav, who tries to go all 360 degrees, he just needs the straighter boundaries to be much more shorter. So I just wanted to know, like, so I just wanted to know which among the six, which do you feel the straighter boundaries are smaller?
Definitely, probably there's one end at the Gabba that's quite small. The MCG, reasonably small both ends. Optus is the same. But the way that Sky's hitting them, I don't think any ground's big enough at the moment, hey?
That's there. And the last question, you being an exceptional fielder, but still, I just want to know, like, which has been the most difficult venue for catching in Australia? Like, there are multiple factors which come in, like one, even the high catches for the lights, or maybe the stands of the color of the stands and the pavilion, or whatever
Yeah.
it is. All these things come into a lot.
I think Marvel Stadium, I think it's where the Renegades play. It's not going to be part of this World Cup, but
Yeah.
that's quite difficult. And then Optus Stadium in Perth also, because all the others have the traditional light towers, so the lights are up quite high. Whereas so Optus in Perth, the sorry, the lights are around sort of the top of the stadium, so they're sort of in your eye line. So especially the hard flat ones out to the boundary, you can tend to lose them in those lights, which makes it quite difficult. So the other ones, Adelaide Oval, Hobart, MCG, SCG, and Brisbane have all got the traditional light towers. So I'd say Optus is probably the most difficult.
Okay. Thank you, Tom. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
That's
much.
Right.
nice.